While most gardeners try to protect their plants, today we are setting ours on fire. Hey everyone, welcome to Garden Time with Belle. Well, today I'm going to be sharing something on the channel that I don't think I've ever shared with you before. Today we are going to be doing a controlled burn of our pollinator habitat. So those of you that follow my videos know that behind me, behind the pond, there's 2 acres that we devoted to pollinators and growing a bunch of different native flowers to bring them in and provide them a habitat. And gosh, just 4 years ago, this habitat behind me was just a bunch of grass. And in that short amount of time, it has turned into an active, beautiful space for pollinators. Keeping this pollinator habitat healthy requires something that most gardeners fear, and that would be fire. And in just these 4 years, we have discovered in this beautiful space, it did just what the old saying says it will do. And just like with perennials, you know the old saying, the first year they sleep, the second year they creep, and the third year they leap. And here we are entering our 4th summer with this garden, and I can assure you that it has followed that pattern, and it is definitely going to leap. And I'll try today to include some pictures of what it looks like in the summer when it's bursting with life. So I've moved inside the greenhouse because it's barely 40 degrees outside this morning and my fingertips were getting so cold. I need to find my gloves and get them on before I head back outside. But before we go any further, I need to say this really clearly to everyone watching, and that is that controlled burns can be dangerous for sure. They can be dangerous if you do not have the proper training, coordination, and help. So again, the purpose of today's video is to just share with you all how we manage and maintain our pollinator habitat through controlled burns to make sure we do it responsibly. So let me share with you a little bit about how this whole project began. So back in the summer of 2021, we contacted the Missouri Department of Conservation. And in our state, and I think in many other states, they have programs where they will work with landowners, homeowners, who are interested in devoting a part of their property to creating a habitat for critters. And in this case, mostly it's all about giving habitat to the all-important pollinators that we need. And so that's when it began. And I had been very interested in this, and I did a lot of research, and I reached out to them, and oh my goodness, they could not have been more helpful. In fact, they funded roughly 50% of the project, which included things like getting things set up. It included the cost for prepping the soil, clearing out any of the invasive species, and certainly the cost of seed. I don't have exact figures for you all, but we, as you know already, we have created 2 full acres. And so I would say the startup cost for all of those supplies and materials, not including our labor, mostly my husband's labor, I think we probably spent, I would guess, $850, maybe upwards of $900, and about half of that was funded by the Department of Conservation. So it's not for the faint of heart, especially if you're going to do a big space like we did, but this is something we really, really were motivated to try. So once we contacted the Department of Conservation, they assigned a specialist to us that what his primary role is to meet with interested farmers, gardeners, landowners to do these types of projects. And it was amazing. He was a wonderful resource. So the very first thing that we did was we scheduled a site visit. So he came out to our property and we toured where we thought we wanted to create the pollinator habitat. And then he created a map for us, an aerial map of the space. He spent a long time with us asking us about what our goals were for the project. What were we hoping to achieve? So as you can see on the picture I'm sharing with y'all, that is the little site map of our property, an aerial view, and the 2-acre section that we have devoted to the pollinator habitat. We happen to be on a little over 10 acres, so 20% of our acreage is devoted to our pollinators. From there, we developed a site preparation plan which was very, very helpful. And then we also created a seed list, or a recommended seed list, that was going to specifically provide food, shelter, and habitat for pollinators, including native species that are particularly attractive and important for monarch butterflies. So that was an important thing. In fact, I'll share with you our seed list that was recommended on the screen for you to take a look at. So I think that seed list probably contains, I don't know, 25 to 30 some different varieties of native perennials, mostly in Missouri, that are really attractive to our pollinators. So that was the seed list. And in fact, we did some bids. We got a couple, 3 bids from different companies, local and in our region, that supply seed mixes for these types of projects. And we ended up going with, let me think, what is the name? The Missouri Wildflower Nursery out of near Jefferson City, near the center of our state. So yeah, so they put together just the right proportion and amounts of seed to cover our 2-acre plot. The Department of Conservation also provided us with detailed guidance on how to prep the site, as well as how to continue to maintain our pollinator habitat over the long run. And that's been really, really helpful because, as I said, here we are going into year 4. So once we followed their directions and did all the work we needed to clear that 2-acre site of invasive species, it was time to sow the seed. And so we sowed our seed mix over that 2 acres. I believe it was in February of 2022. And you need some special equipment to do that. And thank goodness my husband has a background in agriculture, so he has lots of toys and materials and supplies to be able to broadcast seed in that big of a space. So let's fast forward to today. One of the most important long-term maintenance practices for native meadows is controlled burning. So as I film the process taking place today, I'm going to share with you all the why. Why is it important to do this to maintain a healthy pollinator habitat? When should you do this, and how should you go about doing these types of controlled burns? Well, before the fire gets underway, the burning, my sweet husband, Alan, some of you might have seen him in some of my videos, he agreed to at least share with you all some of the supplies he's going to be using. He does have a buddy that's going to be arriving to help us out, but let's first have him show us some things. You know how I always love to show you the materials and supplies for garden projects, no different. So yeah, Alan, can you show our viewers kind of what you're going to be needing for the project?
Well, you've got to start a fire with something. This is a benzomatic flame cane.
A flame cane.
You attach a propane cylinder to it, turn on the valve, and a light down here at the end, and it does a very effective job and is very controllable instead of reaching down with a grill lighter or something like that.
Sure.
To control the fire, once we get it going, to keep blown back where we want it to be, we're going to use leaf blowers. Get it away from the edges. Just kind of encourage it to be burning where we want it to be burning.
One of the most important safety things in the back of your Ranger would be that big tank. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's 30 gallons of water hooked up to a sprayer, commonly used around the yard, farmsteads or anything else. Sure. For weed control. We're using it today for water for around the edges, of kind of control flame, control the burn.
And you know, the other thing I thought you might share with my viewers, you know, of course, safety, safety, safety. So Alan has a background in agriculture. He grew up farming. He's done this many times, so he has loads of experience and knowledge. And also his friend who volunteered to come help us out today also has a lot of training. And in fact, he is a member of
Boone County Controlled Burn Group.
Okay, the Boone County Controlled Burn Group. So there are actually groups out there in different states and different counties in our state who do special training, but they also oftentimes will come and help people with projects like this. So again, like I said when I started the video, this is not anything that you should be doing on your own without any special training or tons of experience. We're just bringing you along for something that we have to do to create our healthy pollinator habitat. And we just wanted to give you kind of a behind the scenes. So this is not a tutorial on how to do this. That is not our training or certification, but this is a method that we've done, he's done mostly, many times before, and it's worked really well for us.
And this last thing, you're talking about safety on a burn this big on 2 acres plus. You want to be able to have 2 people in case somebody were to have an incident where they accidentally were on fire or were injured or anything like that, or overcome by smoke. And you keep an eye on each other, the buddy system, so to speak, to maintain safety and just sure that everything's going the way you want it to.
Awesome. Well, thanks for showing us some of the stuff, and I can't wait for Tim to get here and for you guys to get the project underway. Thanks, Alan.
You're welcome.
I thought I'd do a little voiceover narration to explain what you're going to be seeing. So as you can see right now, I'm on my scooter taking you up into the habitat so that you can see what it looks like all in its dormancy, dry and crispy. And you can see here how tall many of these plants are, 6.5 foot tall. So that's what it looks like. And in the next shot, I believe we're going to see them getting underway. Very important doing these controlled burns that you keep a wet edge, as they say. So you can see my husband here with his wand. So he is making sure he is wetting down the edge of where we want the fire to stop. And his buddy Tim is, of course, working in tandem. So they just followed each other around, and they each had important jobs to do. And I could not believe how fast they worked and how fast this process went. Could not be a better couple of guys to do such an important job and do it safely and responsibly. All right, everybody, take a look at this. This is only about 30-40 minutes into the process, and see how much has burned. Fire is no joke. It really is something powerful that's to be respected, and I just was fascinated by how fast things happened. And here Alan is again, keeping a wet edge with that water tank on the edge. And here is Tim, and he's telling me, he told me that he was doing what they call dot matrix. So you see the fire on the left, he is creating another line of fire to the right of it by dotting the pollinator patch, and the fire likes fire, so it's gonna flame out and go together. And again, just expanding the project, starting the edges, and the fire will move towards the center of the patch. They use all kinds of things. Besides that watering can, they also use leaf blowers to blow the fire in the direction they need it to go. And here we are. It is all done. It only took them 90 minutes to burn down the 2 acres. And here you see them using the last little bit of time they had together by going ahead and burning some of the brush that lined the bank of our pond. So here I am walking down the same pathway I walked down an hour and 15 minutes ago when I showed you what my pollinator habitat looked like before we did our responsible controlled burn. There were lots of plants, native plants here in my pollinator habitat that were taller than I am, and now this is what we've got. I know it's not very pretty, but I guarantee you it's going to rejuvenate itself, and it's going to be spectacular this next year. This project has honestly been one of the most rewarding things we've ever done in our gardening journey. Knowing that we're providing habitat for all kinds of beneficial pollinators, monarch butterflies, and even small critters brings us a lot of pride. And of course, the beauty that this space has brought to our garden, to our property, and actually to our neighbors has been worth all of the effort We are super excited to see what this next gardening season will bring as our pollinator habitat springs back to life. So if you've hung out with me this long, I'm going to invite everybody out there to please like and subscribe to the channel so that I can continue to share with you some of our gardening adventures here in our Mid-Missouri Zone 6 garden. So until next time, I wish everybody out there happy gardening.